let's go and get started. So, market took a little bit of a drop today with over $450 million of liquidations in the past 24 hours. Longs were a majority of that. You can see over here, most of the longs, over 412 million, got liquidated, and shorts only 37 million. So we'll talk about the reason for that and then a few big items in the news. Next, looking at the liquidity heat map. So right now we can see there is a lot of liquidity down here at this 76,000 level. One of the big reasons for that is because we do have the CME gap between 77 to 78,000. So that's a big reason why this could be a magnet for a further move to the downside. But right now there is a lot of bids near this 80,000 level. So potentially we could bounce from here. We'll go over some technical analysis with Bitcoin and various altcoins as well, not just, the market overview, so you guys can see exactly where the best support and resistance levels are. Next, talking about some big news items. So a lot of you may heard that President Trump recently signed an executive order officially creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So this was big news, and a lot of people were expecting this to pump the market. And unfortunately, we saw a drop. Bitcoin went from 90K all the way down to 85K. And a couple reasons for that was because they were mentioning that they were just going to use the seized assets. So assets from forfeitures such as the Silk Road Bitcoin over 200,000, and they weren't going to buy any outright. So that was the reason for the drop. People were expecting them to market order buy on Coinbase, or at least have some type of effect on the market. But the fact that they decided they're just going to use forfeited assets does indicate that, okay, maybe it might be a little longer before they actually buy it outright. And then you can see Trump actually mentioned a few here. He says, Trump orders the government to explore pathways to acquire Bitcoin only with no cost to taxpayers. So they also mentioned in the agreement that they would look for budget neutral strategies. So he announced this at the Crypto Summit. So that's why a lot of people then started buying Bitcoin. We had a bounce in the market. So there's a lot of whipsawing going on. But eventually people found out that the government is most likely going to purchase Bitcoin. But again, they have to make it a delta neutral strategy via whether it's Doge savings, then they use that to buy the Bitcoin or whatever it may be. But in my opinion, I do think they're going to buy it eventually. So it's just a waiting game on that. Now, we also had China. Their CCTV reported on the U.S. Bitcoin reserve. So it shows they are taking notice of what the United States is doing with Bitcoin and crypto. So that's something that is great to see. And that is something I'm keeping a close eye on as well. And also during this stream, guys, I just want to say, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments of the Jim Hunter's live announcement that we just made in the Telegram. So go ahead and leave any questions in there, and then I will come after I'm fully done with this. It should take about 30 minutes to go over everything in the market, and then I'll come to those questions. I can answer that accordingly. So just want to mention that as well. But next for some big news items is we also have one of the FIFA administrators actually was at the White House Crypto Summit on March 7th, and they claimed that they are interested in creating a FIFA token and are considering developing it in the US. So this was something that was very interesting, and a lot of people were laughing because FIFA was actually one of the main attractions at the Crypto Summit. Most people were talking about that. So I believe the World Cup starts in June, I want to say, and it's going to be hosted in Miami. So look for a FIFA token around that time. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that as well. But again, just always be careful to make sure to take profits on those meme coins, especially with any company or organization, as they usually dump pretty fast. Next in the news, we also have U.S. banks can now become validators on Ethereum. So this is directly from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. So this is very bullish for Ethereum and will help increase adoption, in my opinion. Again, Ethereum's been getting beat down this whole market. It's been underperforming Bitcoin for the past 2.5 years. So we really want to see Ethereum start to outperform soon. Hopefully it breaks out of its ascending triangle that it's forming right now by the end of March. But again, just going to have to see about that. But there is good news nonetheless. Next, we have the Texas Senate. They recently passed the Senate Bill number 21, which would establish a state-level reserve for Bitcoin and other digital assets with a market capitalization of at least $500 billion. So this shows they're focused only on the legitimate assets. So really, in that higher echelon market cap, only the top few cryptocurrencies. So it's good to see, though, that Texas is so pro-crypto and is really looking to form their own reserve as well. So just more bullishness for the market there. And then we had New York Assembly considering a bill to criminalize crypto fraud, including rug pulls, private key fraud, and undisclosed token interest. So I think in general, this will most likely have a net positive effect just because it'll hold people accountable that are performing all these actions and giving the space a bad name. So hopefully we can see this either come into effect or have some type of structure to where it makes sure to only focus on these bad actors and not get any other normal users into the crossfire. So going to keep an eye on this as well. And then we have Dubai. So Dubai has been really pro-crypto, and they actually announced their largest bank, Emirates NBD, partnered with Aqua Now to offer crypto trading through its digital banking arm. So it shows Dubai is continuing to increase crypto adoption and shows that, again, all these world leaders and these top countries are starting to adopt it and really starting to integrate it into their financial ecosystem. Then next, speaking of positive developments, we have Japan. Ruling party has proposed cutting the crypto gains tax from 55% to 20%, aligning it with stocks and boosting investor appeal. Says if approved, this shift could pave the way for spot Bitcoin ETFs and strengthen Japan's position in the global digital asset market. So this is amazing to see as well. I know that everyone was expecting Trump to mention 0% capital gains tax for U.S. investors at the White House Crypto Summit. Unfortunately, he didn't. But seeing as these other countries are actually lowering that capital gains tax on crypto is very good to see. There's even a post I saw that Japan wants to eliminate it completely, which, if that happened, would be insane. But the fact that at least they are lowering it over 35%, proposing it, I should say, it hasn't been official yet, is very, very bullish. So good to see on that front, increasing adoption. And then last but not least for the crypto news, we had the Office of Comptroller of Currency declared that national banks are now allowed to custody crypto assets. So again, we mentioned banks can be validators, and now they can actually custody crypto assets completely. So this again is helping to increase adoption and help to just spread that development and investment into crypto from various entities. So great to see on that front. Next, let's go over the macroeconomic news. So there's been a lot of news with Trump and the tariffs and a lot of FUD regarding that. He did say Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. So good on that. At least he's showing some pause for enforcing those tariffs. And then also he's saying that India has agreed to cut tariffs way down. So Trump announced earlier in his speech that there will be reciprocal tariffs. So any country that's tariffing the US, let's say 20%, then he'll tariff them 20%. So now India, I believe, has been tariffing the US 30 to 35%. So whereas the US has only been tariffing them 5%. So now we're going to see India is actually lowering that way down ever since Trump announced he would tariff them 35%. Next, we have China. They're imposing 100% tariffs on select Canadian imports. It's actually gained a lot of attention a few days ago and shows that, I think, in my opinion, it may be Trump and China working together to kind of put pressure on Canada at that point to, whatever it may be, to develop whatever they need to. But the fact that China's imposing those tariffs leads me to believe there's some type of thing going on behind the scenes that we're not quite seeing. So interesting to see this development. Then also we have the FOMC meeting coming up March 19th, and Fed Waller saying he could see rate cuts after the March Fed meeting. So very interesting if that's the case. Again, I know Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, was saying that he's not expecting many rate cuts, maybe one at the very most. So the fact that Fed Waller is saying we see rate cuts after March shows that, again, potentially people could start investing more because when interest rates are lower, loans are cheaper, people feel richer, they feel like they can, again, borrow more money and potentially invest that back in the crypto market or more risk-on assets. So something very interesting to see. I'll be watching that closely. And then last but not least is the NASDAQ is talking about introducing a 24-hour trading on the equities exchange. This caught a lot of people by surprise because, again, while the stock market has typically been just Monday through Friday and, closed after, I believe, 4 p.m. EST, now we're seeing potentially it'll be open 24/7, eating trading on the weekends. So this will create a lot of disruption, in my opinion. People are going to get a taste of what it's like in the crypto market, trading 24/7, now if that's being adopted in the TradFi market. So this is something I'm watching as well and could shake up the financial system, in my opinion. So very interested to see on that front. Now let's go over some charts for the S&P, gold, and crude oil. So For the S&P, we have right now it closed Friday at 57.70. So a big support level I'm watching is 56.40. And I believe if this holds, then the S&P will maintain its bullish structure. If not, then we may start looking into a further downtrend in the TradFi space. So watching this closely, we actually had the RSI reject off of its signal line on the weekly and still going to the downside. So still a lot of room to go on that front. Again, it's on the weekly, so it could take a few weeks, few months to play out. But nonetheless, it's very interesting to see that we are still in this downtrend on the S&P. So we need to see a bounce fairly soon. I would be looking to bid near 56.40. Then after that, most likely going a lot lower, around 52.70. So hopefully this 56.40 level holds. And then gold. Gold is a hedge against inflation. So it's continued to rise. It's continued to do well in the market. And in my opinion, you can see the RSI bounced off the signal line on the weekly. So it's continuing even higher because it's also, besides being a hedge against inflation, it's also a hedge against uncertainty. People hate uncertainty in the market. And so they're going to buy gold because of that. And you can see just with how choppy the market's been in crypto over the past few months. I mean, it's only, clear to see that the gold has been performing so well. So most likely it'll keep going up. I mean, around 3,000 is going to be that psychological resistance level. So curious to see if that holds or not. But yeah, gold has definitely been a good bet so far. Then you have oil futures. Those have been continuing to decline. Right now they're hovering just around the 66 support level. If oil rises, then as long as it stays within the 67 to 75 range, it'll be fine. But if it rises any higher than that, that's when you have to start taking caution because that's when you have transportation costs increasing, higher chance of inflation increasing, and just a lot of other bad things happening. So as long as oil continues to bounce around in this range, nothing too crazy. From the looks of it here, it may keep going to the downside if the 66 level does not hold. So I'm going to be watching that very closely as well. Now, let's go into the crypto market overview. So we talked about how Bitcoin dropped and the whole market dropped today. Now Bitcoin's at 82,300, down 4.2%, whereas Ethereum is down 8%, down to $2,000. And this is interesting because Ethereum was outperforming yesterday whenever I post the market update. Now you can see Ethereum is underperforming. So it shows how quickly this market can change and how there's so much uncertainty. And really just on the weekends, the weekends have been historically bearish, honestly, because there's low liquidity. It's very easy for the market manipulators to, push people around, grab liquidity to the upside and the downside. So that's why you always have to be careful on the weekends because there is a lot more volatility because of that low liquidity. So just keep in mind, not a lot of people are trading on the weekend. That's why we're seeing a lot of these big moves usually happen Saturday or Sunday. Now, top gainers, we have Move, and then besides that, we have stablecoins, right? So nothing too crazy here. Again, just the whole market's bleeding, a few outperformers here and there, but really, at the end of the day, it's really just kind of surviving the chop and then looking at those strong performers, what coins have held the most against this drop, and then potentially investing in those once we have that reversal. So watching those as well. And then looking at the total value locked. So anyone who doesn't know what TVL is, it's basically showing how much money is flowing into certain chains, networks, or flowing out, right? So the consensus is the more money that flows into a chain, the more bullish people are in that chain and the more volume being traded, etc. So right now, looking at this, we can see Ethereum, day over day, it's 1.3%. Bear Chain, 1.6%. TVL change, and then Avalanche even showing a little bit at 0.17%. But really, you can see most of these are net outflows here for TVL. So again, a couple percent are being taken out. Normal, as there's FUD in the market, as there's a sharp reaction to the downside, and it's the weekend, right? So people kind of taking that risk-off approach. So nothing really standing out too much on here. I will say Solana has been gaining some traction again with meme coins. I know Please, that one JD Vance meme coin, gained a ton of traction. It was up 30 mil. I know Gem Hunters, they caught, I think, over a 20x on that. So great to see on that front. Again, if you want to join Gem Hunters Premium, then you know how to do that. We have a link in the pinned message at the top of the Telegram. Towards the bottom, we have the link to join Gem Hunters if you want to join that. But yeah, I think meme coins may be coming back a little bit, especially considering the overall market and utility plays bleeding as they are. So interested to see if that takes hold again. And then looking at the Fear and Greed Index, I like to use this as a sentiment indicator because I like to see what people are saying, how scared they are, because as Warren Buffett says, you buy when others are fearful, you sell when they're greedy. And so this Fear and Greed Index has been towards the bottom for some time now. Being at this 24 level, I do think that potentially we could mark a bottom fairly soon. I mean, just looking at the history, you can see anytime we've been this low, usually it's marked a bottom in price, which is in the gray line here. You can hardly see it behind the yellow, but usually it marks a bottom. So seeing as much fear as there's in the market, and you'll see in the technical indicators, there's a lot of oversold indicators on altcoins, which leads me to believe we could have a bounce fairly soon. So we'll go and talk about that. But yeah, good to see fear right now at 24, potential for a bounce in the near future. Now looking at Bitcoin's monthly returns. So this is seasonality. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, basically seasonality measures, how bullish or bearish certain quarters are and based off of historical data. So historically, Q1 has been a bullish quarter for Bitcoin. You can see the past 4 years have been green mostly for Q1. Now, with caveat, February was red, and then March is looking to be red. So with that said, this may be more like 2020, which if that's the case, if March ends up being red, then we could see green for April and May, right? So we're just, again, history doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. So you got to look at the seasonality. You got to look at historically what's been bullish, what's been bearish. And really, I mean, if March ends up being red here, then historically you can see April has been green. So could be a nice little bounce there. And then you have the whole sell in May and go away. That's a big saying in the TradFi market. A lot of people sell in May, wait for summer to go, and then they invest back near Q4, which is one of the most bullish quarters as well. So just depends what we're going to see. But again, if this is like 2020, then we could potentially see some red in March and then green April and May. So going to be watching that very closely. Next, look at the ETF flows. So I like to go to Farside. This is a great website to look at ETF flows, farside.co.uk. And I guess it just tells you what institutions are buying Bitcoin and what are selling. So BlackRock has usually been a net buyer, but recently they've been selling a lot, which is, maybe a little cause for concern here. We saw Friday negative 409 million of outflows. So institutions aren't as confident in Bitcoin right now. They don't like that uncertainty, and they're taking that risk-off approach. And so something I like to watch is, one, whenever there's a huge amount of outflows, like what we saw with, $1 billion of outflows, 754 million, 275, when there's a lot of outflows in a row, usually you can expect some type of big bounce afterwards. And that's what we saw at the end of February. Now, could that happen again? We're going to have to see. But if you look at the historical data, this is a chart I like to show everyone as well, is whenever we have, again, either these huge inflows, we can see here, Bitcoin's price topped and then we had the drop, or when we have huge outflows like this red bar here, then Bitcoin's price usually bottoms, then we have a nice bounce. So that's what I look for whenever I see these huge inflows or outflows. So right now it's kind of in the middle, around 400 million. So curious to see what happens on Monday, but that's something I'm watching as well. And then also Ethereum, same thing. Ethereum's inflows and outflows are a lot less than Bitcoin. Obviously there's not as much volume, not as many people interested in it, but nonetheless, it has been having outflows for the past 3 days in a row. So hopefully we start to see that pick up. Whenever Ethereum was actually getting towards that 4,000 level, 3 to 4,000, we saw inflows in the 9 figures, hundreds of millions. So it was a lot higher. So if we see that return, potentially we could see some more bullishness in Ethereum. But until then, probably continuing to chop and underperform until we see some more inflows from big institutions. Now let's go over some technical analysis. So you can see Bitcoin 82,300. And I drew a couple levels here. I'll go and expand the chart so you can see it a little bit easier. And also, for anyone asking, this stream is being recorded. So I will post this stream afterwards. We'll get this recording set up. And so that anyone that missed this stream can actually go back and watch it themselves. So want to make sure you guys have all of the info that you need. But looking at Bitcoin, there is some big support between 80 to 81K. Now, potentially this 82K could hold. We're going to have to see what happens on the 4-hour here. But you can see the big level I have here is the CME gap. So the CME gap is between 77 to 78K. And for those who don't know what a CME gap is, it's basically whenever you have Bitcoin on the CME futures, you have Bitcoin closing at a certain price, let's say 76K, and then it opens the next day at 78K. And there's a gap. Because usually it's because, there's various theories on this, but usually it's because there's certain orders that got, executed at a higher price, or there's just maybe, who knows, maybe there's not liquidity between that, or there's just various reasons for a CME gap. Most of the time, they actually do get filled, but sometimes they don't. But I would say majority of times they do get filled, and this is something that's always controversial. But again, it is statistically significant to where we can expect that, it almost got hit just on February 28th at 78.2K, but it didn't quite get hit. So still waiting for Bitcoin to go down to this 77K level, which does line up with, you can see here, these bids that are near 76.4K. So most people are expecting us to break down, hit this liquidity just below, and then bounce to the upside after the CME gap is closed. So the CME gap doesn't always need to be closed, but usually it is closed more times than not. So going to be watching that. But yeah, this 80K level, you can see it is acting as some support because we did wick down to it February 28th. Then also we just reached it nearly on March 4th. So this is a big level, big area of contention. So I'm going to be watching this closely. What I would say if you're thinking of trading Bitcoin right now is just be cautious. The RSI on the daily is crossing to the downside, which does look like it may break below the signal line, indicating a shift in the trend, as well as the stock RSI was nearly overbought, now crossing to the downside as well. So a lot of bearish momentum currently. Again, it's the weekend, much easier to manipulate and swing the chart either up or down. But yeah, I'm just waiting for at least probably getting down to this 80K level. I would start to bid, and then especially if it gets down to the 77K level, I would definitely bid there. So two levels that are very, very important. Resistance would be this 200 EMA. I mentioned we were holding above this in my last market update at this 85.8K level. Once it broke below it, though, you can see how quickly those shorts piled in. I mean, this is basically a breakdown trade. So we have breakout or breakdown trades. When this broke below, a lot of people shorted it. So unfortunately, Bitcoin couldn't hold it. I'll still be watching the daily if it can close above it, but not expecting it to. And then at that point, this 85K, 86K level is going to be resistance. Now looking at Ethereum. So Ethereum's interesting as well. If you look on the weekly, this 2100 level has been very big support. And I've actually drawn some trend lines here. I was going to keep them here. But this 2100 to 2170 level has been big support because you can see here, it did bounce back in December of 2023. It bounced on the wick in August 2024, September of 2024, and then February of this year as well. So you can see how many times this has acted as support. Now the fact that it's breaking it is very, very bearish. Now we have the weekly candle closing in, I believe it's going to be 4.5 hours, 3.5 to 4.5 hours. So if it cannot close above this 2100 level, we could potentially seeing a lot lower on Ethereum. I did draw this little trend line here. I wouldn't put too much emphasis on this trend line, but the fact that it has been respected over the years could mean that if we fall below this trend line at around 2050, that at the very least, what I would look for is at least 1950 here. So you can see 1950 is this previous resistance, now support from November of 2023. So it could act as support again. So that's what would be the level where I would be bidding, 1950. And if we fall below there, at that point I would be looking at, I don't want to say, 1500 is a lot lower. But I mean, if we're talking about strong support resistance, you're going to have a lot of support here around 1500. So that could be the next big level. So yeah, it's not something we want to see, but we just got to look at both sides of the market. And if we're not holding these big support levels that we've held for the past few years, then you just got to think that, okay, maybe we're going a lot lower here and we should start bidding accordingly. So that's what I would look at here. As far as the technical indicators, the RSI is getting close to oversold on the weekly and is actually oversold on the stock RSI. But I want to point out on the daily chart, it's actually getting close as well, but not quite there. So really the daily looks like it could go a little bit lower, at least until it's 1950 level. So that's what level I'm going to be watching. And then from there, we're going to have to see what happens. But yeah, just again, don't rush to try to knife catch any of these downward moves. If you can find them at major support levels, then I would DCA. Then at that point, that's when you can set your stops accordingly. Maybe around 1850 if you're entering at 1950, etc. But yeah, it's just a big waiting game right now. And hopefully we see the weekly, start to bottom out soon. And hopefully we see the stock RSI curve to the upside and then have a nice bounce from there. But again, just with a lot of uncertainty in the market, people are taking that risk-off approach. Now, looking at the ETH BTC chart, I do like to look at pairings because it gives me a good idea of relative strength, meaning if we're seeing an outperformance or an underperformance versus Bitcoin. So for ETH BTC, you can see we had major support here at this 0.026 level. And right now we are looking to break it. Now, like I said, we do still have about 4.5 hours till that weekly close. So if this closes above, could be very bullish, and then we could bounce from there. But if not, then at the very least, I would look at this support here of 0.02. So 0.02 should act as good support. Looking at the RSI right now, it's actually getting towards that oversold level, which is very, very bullish. So you can see every time ETH BTC has gotten to oversold, then Ethereum actually had a bounce versus Bitcoin. So potentially we could have a bounce fairly soon. So I'm going to be watching that very closely, but something that's good to see on that front. Next, let's go ahead and look at USDT dominance. So this is a chart I've actually been talking about for a while, and this is one where we had a huge trend line that was formed all the way back in December of 2017. That's when the trend line started, and you can see how many bounces that USDT dominance had. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, USDT dominance basically measures stablecoin strength. So if it's rising, that means people are getting out of Bitcoin and altcoins and investing into stablecoins. If it's falling, that means people are using their stablecoins and buying Bitcoin and altcoins. So we want to see this chart decline. And so whenever we initially broke down out of this 7-year support in November of last year, we saw a huge run in the market. And then we saw a close above, then we saw a lot of chop, and we finally saw it break above this support, now turn resistance, bounce on it as support, and then continue a lot higher. And so right now what I'm looking at is potentially this resistance holding at around 5.6%, which that would mean further bleeding until we get up here, and then we start falling. So that's a level I'm watching right now. Now, technically, you could say we had this resistance in November that may hold here, this 5.4% level. So if this holds, then we could see some good price action in alts and Bitcoin. So again, a real big thing is going to be waiting for this weekly close in 4.5 hours. And if this can close below 5.4%, then we could potentially see a relief bounce in the market on Monday. But historically, Monday's been red, but again, could be different depending where this chart closes. Looking at the RSI, it's getting very, very close to where it's rejected from the past, around the 65 level. So potentially that could be, again, another rejection point if we can reach that. But still looks like it's a ways away, between 60 to 65. So maybe a few more days of downward price action until we get here and then rejecting after. So again, the weekly close is going to tell us a lot. Going to be watching that closely. And then Solana. So Solana is actually right near a major support level where it's bounced in the past. So you can see here, let's actually go on the daily, a little bit easier to see. So Solana has bounced off of this 128 level in September of last year, February of this year, and right now it's getting very close. And even in the past here in August of 2024, July, June, that's why I have these levels drawn, because they are areas of confluence, areas of significance. And so I would technically start placing my bids here at 128 for Solana. And then from there, I would look at, really between 120 to 128. You're going to have support. I mean, we had a lot of wicks in between these areas. So I started to look for support there. And then at the very least, 115 could be a strong support as well. Resistance turns support. So watching these levels very closely. I do think, we could be in for some type of relief bounce soon. But the fact that the RSI is crossing to the downside below the signal line, and then the stock RSI is crossing to the downside as well, leads me to believe that potentially we could even go a little bit lower here, down to 115, which would be a good level to DCA in my opinion. So again, a lot of altcoins are bleeding, but they are starting to get close to these oversold levels. So potentially a few more days of downside before that relief bounce, but I do believe it will be coming. Now it's just about having patience. And then finally, let's go over AVAX. So AVAX could not hold the $20 level, which is very, very bearish. If you go on the daily chart, you can see that the next major support level is going to be around this $15 here. So that's where it had that big resistance on July of 2023, now acting as support. So hopefully AVAX will be able to bounce off of this 15, and then we could have a nice move to the upside. Again, similar chart here where the RSI is crossing below the signal line, and the stock RSI is also crossing below, which is not bearish, or it's not bullish at all. So you may want to wait till it's oversold. And then at that point, I would imagine it'd be around $15 here. So I'm not trying to catch a falling knife with AVAX. Like, I mean, if you want to bid here, you could, but I'm really waiting for these major support levels before bidding anything. So 15 would be my area for AVAX. Now, let's go over upcoming events, and then I will be taking questions. So again, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments that we posted in Gym Hunters, and then you can see I will answer those accordingly. So this is an hour stream, so we still got about 30 minutes left. Let's go over U.S. economic data this week. So we have jobs openings on Tuesday, CPI numbers are on Wednesday, PPI is on Thursday, jobless claims are also on Thursday, and then consumer sentiment on Friday. So for anyone who doesn't know what these numbers represent, they basically give an overall view of the macroeconomic data in the United States. So Bitcoin, and mostly, I mean, the financial markets in general rely on monetary policy and the overall macroeconomic environment. So if the economy's not doing good, you know, crypto and TradFi aren't going to do good either. So what you want to see here, it's very nuanced with these numbers now because of where we're at. And because if these numbers come in too weak, then at that point, you know, people are saying the economy is weaker than we expect, and then we have a drop in the market. But if the numbers are slightly underperforming, which means that the Fed will most likely have to cut interest rates again, people actually look at that as bearish. So we have if we have a slight, you could call it underperformance, or they don't meet expectations, the numbers don't meet expectations, then you may have some bullish sentiment from that, which is kind of funny. So if you have short-term underperformance, then bullishness for the market. If you have an outperformance, usually we have a pullback, but that's good long-term for the market. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy there. It's not really one way or the other. But yeah, I would say if it's kind of in the middle, or if it meets expectations, then really it's kind of a delta neutral, and it's really not bullish or bearish. So just kind of go off of that. Again, I know it's not the clearest, but it's just how these numbers are. So I'll be watching that anyway to see if there's any major outliers for these numbers. Really, the biggest ones are the unemployment numbers. It's going to be a big area of focus as well on Thursday. And then next we have the March calendar. For anyone who doesn't follow Layer GG Official, great account to follow. Definitely give them a follow on there. They have a lot of good news updates. So don't want to belabor everything on here, but just some big things to watch out for is just big unlocks for tokens like Aptos, March 12th. They have a $72 million unlock. You have Pi Day, which will be interesting for the Pi token on March 14th. So imagine they have some type of big update. The token actually hasn't been doing that bad, surprisingly. So yeah, good on anyone who has the Pi token and was able to claim that. And then you also have Melania. So her token, $23 million unlock, which is 17% of circulating supply, is happening on March 18th for anyone that holds that. The FOMC on March 19th. This will be a huge date because this will tell if the Fed is going to cut interest rates. If they do cut interest rates, the market's going to send, it's going to pump. But if they don't, again, not a big deal, as most people aren't expecting them to cut interest rates for a while. So really, if they don't cut them, it's fine. Really no reaction from the market. Then if they raise interest rates, that's when you're going to see a huge drop in the market because people aren't expecting that. So yeah, just some little sentiment there. And then also we have March 23rd is the second deadline for the Grayscale Sol Spot ETF approval. So there's also been a lot of ETFs that have been applied for. You know, not just Solana, you have Doge, XRP, Litecoin, Aptos, Polkadot. I mean, I'm kind of losing track on how many ETFs we have now. It's kind of getting diminishing returns as far as, you know, positive catalyst. Anytime an ETF is announced, it's not really having the effect it usually had. So yeah, at that point, just keep an eye on the Solana one though, because this is a big one. And then we have USDT being delisted from Kraken in Europe, March 31st. This is from the MiCA laws. So MiCA is the SEC of the EU. So they announced that exchanges need to delist Tether from their exchanges. I believe that they gave a 6-month to 1-year deadline on that. So sometime this year, exchanges need to comply. Now, this doesn't affect USDC, and it's not saying USDT is effectively insolvent because they've had audits, they've proven that they have their proof of reserves, their funds to back it up. It's just there's all kinds of regulations and, you know, certain procedures that these stablecoins need to follow, and USDT just isn't following that right now. So it's just more control that MiCA wants, and USDT isn't necessarily complying, so they're punishing them for it. But again, if you have USDT, just exchange it for USDC. If you're in Europe, you'll be fine. And then also we have a lot of launches that are supposedly happening in March. So Nillion is a big AI DeepIn coin, one I'm actually very, very bullish on and I invested in. Zero Gravity is another AI token I invested in. Should be pretty good. And then you have a lot of other ones. Newbit, I believe. I heard some good things about that. And then a few. The Guns token. This one is huge for AVAX. So anyone who remembers Off the Grid last year, it was one of the biggest Web3 games that was actually adopted by Web2 streamers. So you had a lot of Twitch streamers like Ninja, Shroud, and a few others talking about Off the Grid. It was actually one of the best Web3 games that Web2 gamers also liked. So now there's rumors of them having a Guns token that's going to launch, which is going to create a lot of hype for GameFi, which inevitably should create a lot of hype for AVAX. So that's something interesting to see. Again, I can't imagine that hype will be sustained, seeing in the current market it's very rotation heavy, but nonetheless, it is something to keep in mind. And then also you have Move Mainnet. Move has been doing pretty good this year, and then a few others as well. So yeah, just a lot of announcements. Again, follow Layer GG Official. Great account. A lot of good updates. And then also we do have Token 2049. So if any of you guys are going to be there, I will be there. I hope to see you guys there. I'll be at a lot of side events. It's one of the best things to go to as far as crypto conferences. There's one in Dubai and then also one in Singapore, I believe in September or October. So highly recommend if you're going to a crypto conference, go to this one. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time. They have early birds tickets available. So it's April 30th to May 1st. So there you go. So make sure you guys schedule your flights and hotels accordingly if you don't live in Dubai. But other than that, we do have the FOMC meeting here, March 19th, I already mentioned. So it'll be a big date as well in 10 days. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, with that, I will take questions for you guys. I have about 23 minutes left. So again, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and post them in the Telegram under the comment section that we posted, and I will answer them accordingly. So let's see what questions we have so far. Yeah, so people are asking where you can see the stream. Obviously, you just click on the three dots above, and you can join the stream from the Telegram group. And let's see. I'm scrolling down through the comments, guys. Just give me a second. Okay, Lucom says, how far do you guys think Sol will sink? So for Solana, I mean, I mentioned, 115 is a major support level. Below that, then I would be looking around, $93 probably be a big support here. And then 77 after that. As far as where I think it's going to sink right now over the next few weeks, probably, if I had to guess, I would say no lower than $100. I couldn't see it going below that just because it's such a big psychological level, and you can see there is big support there as well. So yeah, so I would say around 100, but I would really love to see this 115 level hold, 115 to 120. If we break below that, then it won't be good for Solana. Then that's when I really start to look at $100 as a good buy level. So at that point, the RSI would be oversold. Stock RSI would be a lot lower, and it'd be a lot good from a risk reward perspective on the daily. But yeah, I would say no lower than 100 is what I'd be looking for over the next few weeks. Let's see. Looking at the rest of the questions. Yeah, people were saying no sound, but I'm assuming you guys can still hear me now because I see my voice vibrating on the thing there. Let's see what other questions we got. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm gonna have this recorded, guys. So you guys are gonna hear sound on that recording if you can't hear it now for whatever reason. But yeah, just leave and rejoin if you can't hear. Let's see. It says Zorano saying, so what are the key areas we should look for the long? Yeah, so I mentioned a lot of support levels in my TA. So really for Bitcoin here, if it doesn't bounce, I would say some bounce around here, around this 82K level. And then below that, I would look for 80K as the next major support. And then from there, a money long would be around 76 to 77K. If you can get it below the CME gap, it's going to be an amazing long, in my opinion. But I assume we're going to see some type of bounce here in the short term, potentially up until this resistance of 85K. And then below there, maybe a further bleed down to just below 80K. And then for Ethereum, let's see, 1950 was my next level I was looking for. Because you can see here, it was acting as resistance July of 2023, and then turned as support on the weekly. So yeah, 1950 would be the next level for Ethereum. And then for Solana, I already mentioned 115, and then 100 if it breaks that. Let's see. Jay says, what is the current sentiment you have on altcoins and their future in 2025? So great question, Jay. So in my opinion, I do still think, we haven't topped yet. I think that we are going to see a further rally into at least Q4. So you can see here if we zoom out, and I know I have a lot of lines on here, guys, but I would say based off the global liquidity cycle, which is a 4-year cycle, and it's really what Bitcoin's price action is based off of. I could see us topping out in Q4 sometime. So sometime in October, which would line up with this long-term trend line you can see I've drawn. So this trend line that stems all the way from December 2017, you can see it's rejected multiple times in 2021, and then also rejected in December and earlier this year. So this trend line should hold. So if it does, then I'm expecting a top in Bitcoin of around 117 to 120K by October. So that's a nice move to the upside. Again, all we're doing is just we have this impulsive move to the upside. Now we're retracing it, regaining this resistance as support. And then from there, we're going to start continuing back higher. But again, you can see how much we rose without any pullback. So this pullback is completely normal. But yeah, I would say Q4 or Q1 of 2026 is what I would be watching for as well. So those two areas. But yeah, I don't think we've topped at all. I do think that we will see a nice rally. If not in March, then definitely in April. So I think a rally is right around the corner. We've been bleeding, chopping for the past few months. So I do think that we will see some relief fairly soon. Let's see. Reading the rest of the questions here. Yeah, it looks like a lot of people aren't having sound, which is interesting. We'll definitely check this out for next stream. But like I said, the recording, everyone should be able to watch that with sound. So no biggie. And also make sure, guys, tell people as well, change their audio settings, because sometimes, for the output settings in Telegram, it may say default, but it may not be the right sound output. So if you have headphones in, it may be defaulted to speakers. We need to default it to headphones instead, and then you can hear it. So just various techniques, which, we'll go over later on. Just reading the rest of the questions here. Okay, one from Sahil. He says, I got a small account of $200. Just want to grow it slowly to get some better goodie out of the market. My conviction in trading is getting better, but I can't be rich using $20 at 3x leverage. Please guide what to do good. Previous traders, then he lists his results. So as far as having a small account, at that point, it's just consistency, or you're going to have to take a little bit higher risk. So instead of 3x leverage, you may have to take 5x leverage or 10x leverage, right? Which means you're going to have to bid at major support levels, but you may have to layer down your bids. So for example, if we're saying that Bitcoin is, may see some bids here at 82K, at that point you may say, okay, I'm just going to layer down along at 82 and then 81 and 80, right? Layer it down versus buying it all at 82K. You could do that, and then because if you're having a little bit higher leverage, your stop loss or your liquidation level at that point is going to be a lot closer. So if you want to layer it out to spread out that liquidation a little bit further down and spread out your entry, that would be, in my opinion, the best way to go about it. So yeah, if you have a smaller account, increase your leverage a little bit and then DCA over layered orders. Don't just buy all at once. Let's see. Looking at the rest of the questions. Samika said, I think that the same news that put us in a bear market is the same one that will put us in a bull market, and that is the war between Russia and Ukraine. As soon as the war ends and they announce it, I'll be very calm. What do you think? Yeah, so that's a big thing as well. We do have the Russia-Ukraine war, which is a big catalyst for the market. So as far as, bearish or bullish, so if the Russia-Ukraine war ends, that's going to help the market. If we have the ending of quantitative tightening, that's going to help. We have the pausing on tariffs, that's going to help. There's a lot that I actually posted, and I will go over that real quick. So there's a lot of things I posted here. So let's see. Yeah. So I posted here. So I said we have the end of QT, start of quantitative easing, which is like stimulus, i.e. injecting money back into the economy, or, even stimulus checks. If Trump gives $5,000 back to everyone via Doge savings, that's what he was talking about earlier as well. Yeah, end of the war, pause on tariffs, 0% capital gains tax eventually. So this is something that a lot of people could benefit from in the U.S. So that'll be another catalyst. The government laying out a plan to buy Bitcoin. I mentioned if they have a delta neutral strategy or a budget neutral strategy, then they will consider buying Bitcoin versus just using it from seized assets or holding the seized asset Bitcoin. And then also other countries, nation states buying Bitcoin and or starting their own strategic Bitcoin reserve. So again, you still have a lot of catalysts, but they're not immediate, meaning, they may not happen the next few days. So people still have uncertainty. And that's why we're seeing this sell off in the market, because people were looking towards an SBR, which Trump already announced. And now that that's passed, it's kind of like, okay, what's the next catalyst? He didn't mention capital gains at the White House summit. What else, when's that going to happen? So yeah, that's just, plus being the weekend with uncertainty never fares well. And then we had the drop. So yeah, I would say just keep an eye on these. Let's see. Yeah, it's crazy. So many people don't have sound. Just looking at the comments. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to get that situated for the next stream so that you guys can all hear it. Anyone who couldn't. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Jay says, we're going to continue, but yet a lot of people do not have sound. I tried everything, still don't have sound. Yeah, there's going to be a recording here, so you guys are going to be able to watch that, the ones who didn't have sound. We should upload it in Gem Hunters. The recording should be uploaded in Gem Hunters, so you guys should be able to watch it. Watch this if you need to. Let's see. Looking at the rest of the questions here. So Austin said, is now a good time to buy promising small cap meme coins? Austin, I would just be careful with memes. So yes, we did have a few memes. There was one, I'll show you guys. It was called Please, and it was actually one for JD Vance. And this was one that was created, I believe, as a meme coin for JD Vance. It actually had a huge run earlier on. But yeah, I would say small caps, just be careful. Like the trenches are still, doing fairly well. But the fact that the market is very uncertain right now, you're seeing a lot of profit taking quickly on a lot of memes. So if you're looking to trade meme coins, look at the ones that have a lot of mind share. Now I know in the trenches, the Gem Hunters trenches, make sure you guys join the Gem Hunters trenches. It's free. It's actually in the pinned comment. So if you haven't joined, just look at the pinned comment in the Telegram. You'll see a link to join there. But we announced some plays in there. And also in Gem Hunters Premium, we do announce DGem plays every day. So our Gem Hunters constantly announce DGem plays. So make sure you guys, if you want to get more consistent plays, join the Premium. But we also post some in the trenches as well. So make sure you guys join that Telegram. But yeah, I would say just be careful with small cap memes because of the market. Wait until you have like a meme with a lot of mind share. That's going to be a little bit safer. Maybe wait until it runs a little bit more. Runs over 1 million or a little bit higher market cap versus trying to buy it at 100K or less, because that's when you don't have a lot of stability and you don't have a lot of confirmation. Really, it's just the Wild West at that point, and it could top out at 200K market cap and then rug. So that's why I say wait for more established meme coins, at least right now, until we get more of a positive sentiment in the market. Then that's when you have most things running because there's so much capital flowing in the market. But until then, you just want to definitely take that risk-off approach versus low caps. Let's see. Kyushi, yes, the recording will be posted here. Let's see. We had a message. No, don't say that. Okay, looking for more. So, let's see. Tyler says, will meme coins be alive for the next 1 year or no? Solana ecosystem going to survive? So, yes, meme coins will always be available because people are always looking to trade memes. I mean, you always have top gainers with some meme coins that are rising a lot. So, meme coins will always be here. Again, they may be here more so sometimes than others. What I do want to point out is actually I was looking at this this analytics here on Dune Analytics, and actually it showed the daily volume on pump.fun. And so this is very interesting because it shows where the interest is at. Now, just last week, whenever I looked at this bar chart, it was actually declining. So now we're starting to see some of the volume come back, but I mean, there were so many rugs with the president tokens, influencers, Web2, Web3 founders, hacks, like everything under the sun. So people are getting tired of those memes and getting rugged on them, and you saw the volume drop. Now you're starting to see it stabilize, and so we may see volume come back, but you can see here the sharp drop in the fees that were generated for pump.fun, just this huge drop from February to now. So be interested to see if this comes back. But yeah, I do think memes will always be here. It's always a big narrative, and it seems like this cycle, they're definitely more prevalent than they have been in last cycles, meaning during last cycles, we saw them pump at the end of the cycle. They were usually the last thing to pump, and then we had the bear market start. Now in this cycle, we had memes be actually one of the first things to pump and lead the cycle. So in my opinion, I think they're going to be here throughout the cycle. They're going to be a lot more sprinkled in because we have platforms like pump.fun, like 4.meme, all these other platforms that are promoting these meme creations for cheap. And so it's just a different dynamic that we're seeing versus last cycle. So yeah, do think it'll be here. But definitely diversify accordingly and manage your risk accordingly. Let's see. Let's see. Yep, Esteban, there's going to be a recording. It's going to be posted. Yeah, David said, big streams are not supported in my laptop. Don't know why, and no sound on phone. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're going to definitely have to check that out. Okay, Sun asked XRP analysis, please. So, yeah, let's go over XRP. So the XRP, there was some support near 226. Unfortunately, it dropped, and now the next major support is going to be around $2. So anyone that is looking to buy XRP, I would wait until at least this $2 level would be a very good spot to DCA. And then at that point, 190 to 2, and also you have the 200 EMA at 185. So you could even use that as somewhat of a stop loss. But yeah, I would say around between 185 to $2 should be a fairly safe spot to DCA on XRP. And then the RSI, unfortunately, we have it crossing to the downside, which makes me believe that we could still have a potential drop here. So again, you want to make sure you're betting whenever the risk is on your side. And so, yeah, waiting until $2 is probably the best bet. Now, also a question from Luke, different Luke, not Belmar. He said, what indicators are you using? So I'm using the RSI. So you can see here, the RSI indicator, so relative strength index. So for anyone who wants to find indicators on TradingView, just go to the indicator tab up here, click it, type in RSI, and then just click here, relative strength index. And you can add this. It's a really good for measuring price strength. So a lot of people use it, a lot of traders use it. And basically, you sell whenever it's overbought above this 70 level. So usually you have a drop in the market, you can see here, and then you buy whenever it's oversold. So you can see here, way back when it was oversold, in July of 2024, it marked the bottom, and then we went to the upside. So very good indicator. A lot of people use it, which makes it a self-fulfilling prophecy because everyone's looking at the same thing. Stochastic RSI is the next one I'm using. So if you just type in stock RSI, then under technicals, click stochastic RSI, and you can add it there. So similar thing, overbought or oversold. You buy when it's oversold, you sell when it's overbought. And then also I have EMAs. So I have the 200 EMA. So the 200 EMA is a very big trend line. A lot of people use it. So they use it for measuring long-term trends. It also acts as support and resistance. So it's a good SR indicator as well. But the 200 EMA, and then the yellow line is the 100 EMA, and then the green line is the 50-day EMA, which a lot of people look at all those. And then the blue line is actually the 21-day EMA. So it's a little bit shorter. Again, the shorter the EMAs, shorter time frame, then you could say the less support resistance it's going to have and the less strength it's going to have. So it's good for measuring short-term moves, but not long-term moves. So that's why you want to have longer EMAs like 200 to measure stronger trend changes. Mel Jersey says, are you going to trade shorts? Yes, we post shorts as well. There was a Sol short, a Solana short that was posted in the Jim Hunter's Trenches group. Make sure you guys join that. And you're trading on BloFin. BloFin is one of the best exchanges to trade leverage on. It's non-KYC. So if you're having any issues, you can use a VPN. And you can still use it. But yeah, we had a Solana short. Actually, I believe it was from 149 to 150. So around this level here. And it had the huge drop. And we actually caught over a 40% move on that. So Kincaid was the one that posted about that. So good on him. A lot of good profits for the Jim Hunters on that. Let's see. Julian, the recording is going to be in Jim Hunters. So we will post it. And it should be fairly soon. Probably within an hour of this stream ending, we'll have the recording. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. For Timmy, saying for those who cannot hear, reconnect your VPN. Or if you're using proxy, change your internet connection because the voice is good. So appreciate that help, Timmy. G says, what do you think about the idea that you'll be able to earn crypto playing GTA 6, Grand Theft Auto 6? Gee, that's a great question. So, Grand Theft Auto 6 is a game. I mean, I assume everyone knows about it, but we've been waiting on GTA 6 for the past, seems like over 10 years. It's been a long time. And there's even been jokes about it, when it's going to release. I do think it's going to be this year. Luke Belmar is really, really big on GTA 6, and he talks about how there's going to be an actual economy in there, an actual economy based off, real world items. People are going to be buying and selling houses on there, different cars, etc. So there's going to be an actual market that's going to tie into cryptocurrency or even real life currency. So it pays to focus some time on that game. Now, again, it hasn't been official from the GTA team if you're going to be able to use cryptocurrency in GTA 6 or if it's going to be a form of transaction method. But it would be, I would say it'd be bad of them not to use it, because it would just help increase adoption that much more if you can actually use cryptocurrency in GTA 6. So yes, I do think that you'll be able to earn crypto playing GTA 6. I think that they're going to integrate it somehow. I don't know if you'll be able to actually earn it through missions, but I think that maybe, I don't know, there may be some type of, in the multiplayer mode, there may be some type of thing worked out where you can still earn crypto. I don't know exactly what that's going to be like, but I think there's going to be some type of crypto transaction method in the game. So should be interesting to see, but still, again, unconfirmed. Elks says, personal opinion, is Solana dead? No, I don't think Solana is dead. I do see a few bears calling for $40 on Solana, which a little cause for concern on that front. But I do think that, again, Solana just got overhyped whenever you had Pump.Fun gaining a lot of volume and attention. And so people were buying Solana to trade their meme coins. And really it just turned into that huge pump that we saw to nearly $300. And so since then, it's had a cool-off period, just like the whole market. So I don't think it's anywhere near dead. I mean, it can still sustain huge launches like it has with the Trump coin, Melania coin, etc. So the network is good. I just think that now, after the meme coin craze, people are just rotating into other utility plays. So that's all I think. But yeah, I think it's definitely far from dead. S says, what do you think about Bitcoin? I went over that a little bit earlier. CC33 was the top indicator used for analyzing Bitcoin. RSI. RSI is probably the best ones. Yeah, if you have RSI, it's going to tell you everything you need to know. SWAR says, is it good for longing SOL now? Between 120 to 127 would be my area for longing SOL. And if it drops below 120, 115 is the next major support, and then 100 after that. Let's see, Newman says, can you give analysis of BTC XAU index? That is an interesting one. I'll see if I can. Yeah, so Bitcoin against gold. Let's see. For this one, let's go on the weekly. A little bit clearer data. Okay, so there may be some support, BTC XAU, at this $28 level. And so 28 may hold here. It's just above that 50 EMA on the weekly. Looking at the RSI, it does look like it wants to curve to the upside, as well as the stock RSI is oversold. So potentially could be a short-term bounce here. And then for resistance-wise, I would look at previous support turn resistance at around $34. So this is where I'd look at to take some profits if you are longing near this 29.60 level. Take profits around 34. Let's see. Austin. Yep, already answered that. Jeffrey says, when are good times to buy Bitcoin to hold long-term, 5 to 10 years? Really, the best time to buy Bitcoin is in the bear market. So, I mean, bear market or during the summer, because usually we have a bleed during the summer before pumping in Q4. So that's what I would say, the summer or the bear market. Or if you just want to do $100 out of your paycheck every month. Like, that's another way. People just DCA Bitcoin, and over time, it's risen, just like this S&P. So really just DCAing every month isn't a bad method either. But if you're trying to time bottoms and tops, I mean, buying during the summer or the bear market is your best bet. Moonbag says ton chain. So we can look at ton real quick. And since this is the first stream, I'll go over, I will go over time a little bit here just to answer some of the questions. I'll try to get to all of them, but again, it may just be short answers for some of them since there's so many. Appreciate all the questions though, guys. Glad this first live stream is helping you guys out. I try to provide as much as possible for here, which is what I try to do for market overviews. You can imagine it's going to be a similar live stream setup. It's going to be, I believe, every other week, at least for market overviews. So we'll see about changing that if we can in the future. But yeah, every other week should be pretty good for you guys to get an overview of the market. As far as ton, ton is bleeding hard right now. I mean, the RSI is oversold, so that's something. But it's just the chain in general. Like, the team has a lot of allocation. There's not a lot of congruence between the team, the devs, and, you know, I mean, basically just the whole foundation is having a hard time working together. And so it's caused the ton coin to bleed and really the community to suffer. And so, yeah, I would say I'm not touching ton right now for the foreseeable future. If they do, I hope they turn it around. But it's just, yeah, unfortunately the team isn't working together like they should be. So it's just causing a lot of discontinuity. Hap says, do you like SUI or invested? What's your thoughts? SUI, I like it. I know that the World Liberty Fi, Trump's company, World Liberty Financial, they actually invested in SUI not too long ago. So they added it to their balance sheet or their portfolio. So that's not bad, showing some interest there. As far as the token, yeah, watching the daily chart right now, it's going to close in about 4 hours. If it cannot close above this 237 level, then in my opinion, we're seeing at least $2. And so I do like SUI, but again, with the RSI still a little bit lower, could see this continuing to go down until we get oversold. Stock RSI is oversold already, so hopefully we see a relief in the market soon. But yeah, I would say wait until $2 at least to buy on SUI. Unless the daily closes above this 237 level, which at that point it could be a good bounce. So that'd be my thoughts on it. Leroy says, what do you think about Bitcoin? I answered that earlier. Coyote says, what do you think about memes right now? What about Ye? So for the Ye meme coin, Kanye meme coin, just be careful, guys. Like, for celebrity tokens, they always rug. Kanye obviously has a lot of mind share, so he'll probably run a little bit further than other meme coins. But at the end of the day, just be cognizant that it'll most likely eventually rug, especially with his personality. I can't imagine he's going to stick with it for the longest time. But nonetheless, if you can catch it early, I would say just take profits along the way. That'd be my biggest recommendation. Or just wait for a dip if you don't catch it early enough. Luffy says, bro, please talk about Jupiter. Jupiter's tanking as a failed project. So let's go and look at Jupiter. So a big thing with Jupiter is, again, the team is awesome. They're doing as much as they can. The only thing is the airdrop. You know, people sold a lot of the airdrop. And then there's been a lot of FUD about the team, and they're getting paid, you know, $50,000 a month, and they shouldn't be getting paid that much. And people are saying they're selling their tokens. Yeah, there's all kinds of FUD on it. So with that said, yeah, Jupiter does not look good right now. I mean, it was on its last weekly support here. Now, technically, like 48 cents could be a good buy level. Like right now where we're at could be a good buy level. But you look at the monthly chart here. I mean, it is right here at its last support. And so, yeah, Jupiter needs to bounce soon. Otherwise, I mean, I don't even know where its next support would be after this. Like, you can see the straight green candle here. So, yeah, it would maybe 45 cents. But, yeah, just be careful, guys, with Jupiter. It looks like it wants to bounce. The RSI is oversold on the 4 hour along with the stock RSI. And then the daily RSI is close to oversold as well. So, yeah, we could see a bounce on Jupiter soon. I mean, I think the sell-off is overblown. I think it's overextended, which makes me believe we could have a bounce fairly soon. So, yeah, just I would say for your stop loss, around, if you want to be on the safe side, 42-cent stop. But if you want to be a little more aggressive, then around 44-cent stop loss. So, again, that'd be like on 3x leverage, the very low leverage, just because of the recent price action. But yeah, I would say with the RSI looks good being close to oversold. So potentially could be a good buying opportunity soon. I need to check though what's going on with him. Let's see. Khaled, I talked about SUI and Ton already. I'm bearish on Ton. SUI, look to buy near $2. Anus says, what do you think is a good level to enter a Bitcoin long? Talked about that as well. I'll say around between 76 to 79K. Could be a very, very good level. John said, should we short with low leverage? I wouldn't be shorting right now after the down move we've already had. At that point, I'd be looking to long at those major support levels, like especially around the CME gap around 76, 77K. Ahmed, I already went over AVAX. Let's see. Advice for Boost says advice for positions in this condition. If you're holding right now, I mean, at the end of the day, like again, you don't want to sell near the bottom here. I do think we're getting close to a bottom. We talked about that seasonality. Like March is usually historically bullish, but if we do end up closing red, then April is always green. So that's, yeah, I would just, again, we've had a lot of bleeding. Everyone is starting to capitulate. Everyone's starting to think the top is already in for Bitcoin, which is usually when we reverse. Again, we still have a lot of catalysts I already went over. If you guys haven't seen them here, just, you can see a lot of catalysts right here already posted. The CryptoData is my X account if you guys want to follow it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a waiting game right now until some of these catalysts start emerging. So just keep an eye on that. Let's see. KMB says, thank you for your analysis. Hey, no problem. Glad it's helping you guys out. Nilio says, any short-term analysis on Hyperliquid? Yeah, let's do that real quick. Let's see. So Hype was a good token, and $20 was holding up as major support for a long time. Unfortunately, now it's been bleeding hard. So the next major support would be around $13. So I would not buy anything on Hype until at least 13. And then resistance at that point between probably around $17 to $18 for resistance. So that would be my analysis on Hype. Jasper says, can you have a long-term analysis on Core? We'll go over Core real quick. All right. So Core is actually getting very close to its support. So Core doesn't look too bad as far as being at a strong level of support. Yeah, so what I would do here, if you want to have a long position, I mean, if you can long it around 35 to 36 cents and then place your stop just below this wick, which would be around 28 cents, that would potentially be a good level there. The weekly RSI is almost oversold, and the stock RSI is already oversold. So yeah, I mean, Core is basically getting now or never kind of long at this point. So they're around 35 cents, could be a good long risk reward wise. And then stops probably around 29 cents. Let's see, Kevin says, what time frame are you using? So for time, I'm just using the weekly. So I use the daily and the weekly time frames for major support resistance levels. Sometimes I use the monthly, but usually weekly is a big one. Glitch says, what about the XRP post on beating its market cap to achieve its purpose for global liquidity? I can elaborate if you wish. I mean, XRP is a US-based cryptocurrency, right? So if Trump announces 0% capital gains tax on US-based cryptocurrencies, that could be very bullish for XRP, which is the reason we saw it pump so much in the past. And so that's why I saw this huge rise in January, right? And so I think that XRP still has a place. I mean, the co-founder or the founder was at the White House Crypto Summit. So I think that, again, they're talking with Trump. They're really trying to integrate with administrations, integrate with banks. And so, yeah, I think XRP is a good long-term hold. Nebula says, what are your thoughts on Luke's meme called MPC? So, again, with memes, usually you have memes bleed a lot. And I say that because nothing goes up forever, especially meme coins. It's only a matter of time before meme coins drop. And so there are some exceptions, right? We've had some long-term memes do good. But at the end of the day, it's just you got to be careful with a lot of these memes. Now, as far as MPC, let me see. I'm trying to find the exact one here. Stay with me, guys. Trying to look for the right one. I think this may be it here. Okay. There's MPC on ETH here. So, yeah, like you can see, it's a lot of these memes. I mean, most meme charts look like this right now. It's not just MPC. And so that's like I say, we live in an attention-driven economy, and with so much liquidity being fragmented because of pump.fun, there's thousands of coins created every day. Like, it's very hard to be a sustainable meme coin in this market. And so as far as MPC, yeah, it just doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. I mean, I don't maybe buy here. Well, no, don't even buy. No. It just looks so bad. I can't even do an analysis on it, honestly. It's just been bleeding a lot. So, yeah, a lot of memes look like this. I just wouldn't even want to front run this unless there's clear support resistance levels, which, yeah, at the very least, 45 mil market cap. But let's see. Oh, Ukesh says, guys, if you're not hearing any sound, join the live and long press on CryptoData's profile. It will show some audio options. Try it. Thank you for that. Louis says, what do you think about the Sonic Chain? Sonic Chain isn't bad. They have a lot of good updates, especially, I mean, obviously having Sonic. But I do think that it is a good protocol. And it should do good long term. Let me see here if I can get you guys the right chart. Okay. Yeah, I know. Let me... Okay. Is this even... Okay, let's go over Phantom. You know, actually Sonic. So, yeah, so for Phantom, about 40 cents. 40 cents should be good support. As far as the Sonic chain, it did gain some traction when it initially launched. And since then, again, liquidity has been fragmented among various chains now. And so, yeah, if you're looking to buy Phantom, potentially 40 cents may be a good level. RSI is oversold. Stock RSI is oversold, so could be good bounce soon. Let's see. Sir Pepe says, where's the Gem Hunters DGen link? I cannot find it. Yeah, so it should be in the pin message. If you're looking for it, like at the first pin message. So if you click on pin messages in Gem Hunters, just at the top there, just keep clicking it, and it should take you to the first pin message of the group. And then the Gem Hunters Trenches link should be there. If you're getting any errors when joining Gem Hunters Trenches, make sure you completed all of the steps to join the original Gem Hunters, like signed up for BloFin, all that stuff. And then you should be able to then go back into the Trenches bot and go through that process. So make sure you guys follow all the correct steps. Let's see. Yep. Let's see. I'm just going through a couple questions already answered. Deborah, no comments on Pi. I haven't looked at that. Went over Jupe already. And just going to do some quickly go over some of the questions. Let's see. Sun asked, with a lot of TGE happening this month, which one of them is good to invest in? So I invested in Nillion, Zero Gravity, those two. So I'm just, biased on those, but I do think those are good projects. Nillion, I think, is going to be a good one. It's an AI DPIN project, Nillion. So check that out. Should be pretty good. Let's see. Celine says, do you have recommendations for tokenizing RWA, like apartments, boats, watches, for those who have assets and not cash to get into crypto? To be honest, I don't. I know that Ondo is one of the best RWA protocols, and RWA is real-world assets, for anyone who doesn't know. It's a big narrative, and basically it's tokenizing assets on the blockchain. So like Celine was saying, like you can buy apartments, watches, cars on the blockchain, right? And so it's a way for people to invest on-chain versus doing it in person or via wire transfer or any other slower method. So yeah, I would just look at Ondo. I know IX Swap, the coin is IXS, but IX Swap is doing RWA as well. So maybe you can work with them if you want to get into that space. But yeah, just look IX and then swap if you want to look at their X account. Joris says, what about using Fibonacci indicators? Yeah, Fibonacci is a great indicator to use. 100% highly recommend it. Very accurate, especially the 618, the golden pocket, as they call it, on the Fibonacci ratio. Let's see. Hasib was asking for Doge TA. So yeah, I'll go over that in a sec. Let's see. SWXY says, I think we're bearish on Sol till 17th because of CME contract. Very possible. See, I'll go over Doge in a minute, guys. Just going over the rest of the questions. Chemo says, what do I do to earn crypto with $20 without using leverage? Since it's hard for me to actually move or do anything, so I need to do that. Yeah, so Chemo, if you don't have, or if you don't want to use leverage and you have $20, potentially farming airdrops, that could be one, right? So airdrops is a big, we actually have a big airdrop section in Gem Hunters Premium. That, we post a lot of airdrops, but yeah, I would say just look for lucrative airdrops and you could earn some free money with that. Or, $20 maybe trading low cap memes, but you really have to be on it, right? Find a good meme caller, and joining the Gem Hunters Trenches could be a good idea. Well, yeah, make sure you join that, and then investing in those memes could be good if you're trying to make quick money. Let's see, Captain BNB thoughts. No thoughts on that. First name, last name. Yep. Let's see. Andre says, what do you think about RWA performance this cycle? RWA, I think that it'll eventually be good. I think that it was a little bit early last year. I think this year it's going to come to fruition a little more, especially since BlackRock is investing with Ondo. I do think it'll be good long term. But yeah, it just may take a little bit to come to fruition. Solomon asks if I have any bots analyzing the whale data. I currently don't have any bots. I have some indicators that I've used, but yeah, could be something. If we can work on something, I will definitely let you know. Big Steppa, will the market pump or dump tomorrow? What's your opinion tomorrow? Hard to say. Maybe pump, just because we dumped on the weekend, so possible there. No idea about StarkNet, DK. No opinion on it. No thoughts on mini Doge, Austin. Moff says, suggest any YouTube channel where I can learn technical analysis of crypto market. Yeah, guys. So if we're looking for YouTube, Rainer Tao is a big one. So here, Rainer Tao, support resistance. So if you guys type in support resistance for beginners, then Rainer Tao is actually a great video. So right here. So yeah, just type in support resistance for beginners on Google, and then this video here is a great one to learn technical analysis. So highly, highly recommend you guys watch this one. Light, Tia and Say, no thoughts on those. H-Bar, Saiba, bullish on H-Bar. It's a US-based crypto company. What do you think about ETH for this market run? I think ETH is going to top out around 5K. Brett, no opinion on Brett. MLG, no opinion on MLG. Daddy, no opinion on Daddy. Take coin. Tony says, just joined. Sol, bullish or bearish. Solana, temporary bearish, probably until 120. Be a good level to buy. And then below that, 115 and then 100. Opinion on Ondo for future with RWA. I think Ondo is going to be pretty good long term. Not sure how much more upside it has, but probably a couple dollars at least. Azara says, what about BNB? I think BNB is most likely going to be bullish. I know CZ is really trying to pump that eco. So when the market starts going, I think that he'll try to capitalize on that. Let's see. A lot of questions here. So I'll probably see. I'm just going to have to, unfortunately, I won't be able to answer all of these. I'm just going to scroll down if there's, let's see. Okay. Actually, we're getting close to the end here, so that's good. So I'll just answer the rest, and then I will head out for the day. Let's see. Zerfus says, opinion on Bitcoin miners stealing transaction problem in the long term. Hopefully not a big issue. Again, with Bitcoin miners, I know it's always been an area of contention, but I think that we're probably safe from that. And then with quantum computing, I think it's still a ways away as far as that threat. And then let's see. Arturo says, DCA XLM on what level would be ideal? Yeah, we can go over that. We'll go over Doge real quick, though, because I said I was going to go over that. And then let's go over, let's see. So as far as Doge is actually getting close to, well, it's actually at support at 16 cents. And so let's go on the weekly here. Yeah. So with Doge, let's see, right now around 16 cents. I mean, you could technically buy here and then set your stop around, you know, just below 16. The next support level after that would be around 12.6 cents, which also coincides with the weekly 200 EMA. So if this 100 EMA on the weekly doesn't hold for Doge, then I would look for 12 cents to buy. And then finally, 9.2 cents would be a great support level as well. The RSI still has some room to the downside to go, but the stock RSI is oversold, so potentially a short-term bounce in the near future. But yeah, this weekly needs to close above the support here, which it does look like it may do. So going to be watching that in the next 4 hours. And then for, let's see, you said XLM. So good DCA levels for XLM would be, let's see, probably 24 cents. May not be bad. And then really good SR line would be 16 cents. If you can get XLM at 16, that's a very good long. Tentatively, 24 cents coincides with the 50 EMA on the weekly, so that could be a good long as well. So, be my two areas for XLM. Let's see. Lavana says, thoughts on Pepe? No thoughts currently. If ETH starts outperforming, then Pepe will do really good, being an ETH beta. And so that would be my opinion on that. Let's see. Cosmic says, what's your opinion about Chill for the Sol Arena? They're also having a TGE March 26th, and players can convert in-game tokens. So I don't have any opinion on Chill, honestly. I don't want to comment on it since I haven't researched it. But yeah, I mean, if they have some good catalysts upcoming and they have a big thing happening on TGE, and potentially selling into that hype could be a good idea. And yeah, for anyone having trouble with the sound for next time, someone said try rejoining or refreshing the Telegram. And then someone has a Bitcoin long at 84.8K, and they're saying close or hold, a 20x long. Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, I hate to say sell here because we may have this bounce around 82K, so probably hold it, and then I'll probably have a stop loss around 81.3K. Oh, Knight was saying it's MPC on Solana. Okay, I will look at that in a minute. Glitch says, can you please give a brief overview of your strategy or edge for technical analysis? Are you more biased on fundamentals or on technicals? You know, I try to play both because the macro, or I say it's the crypto market, is based on the macro environment. So it's based on monetary policy. So I think it's good to have a little bit of blend of both. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other because, again, if you have announcements like an SBR or 0% capital gains tax, I mean, that's going to essentially pump the market regardless of the technicals. And so I think technicals are good from a risk reward perspective of when to take profits or to buy. So that's something that I would keep in mind. It's just, yeah, I use them 50-50. I really don't prefer one or the other. But technicals, I will say I do use a lot whenever I'm entering tokens. AVAX went over about that. Pepe went over about that. Dolan TA support levels. Yeah, that one is, yeah, that one's going to be, I mean, heck. Well, here, I'll go over MPC real quick. And let's see, MPC on Solana. Okay, yeah, let's just go over this one real quick. So for MPC on, oh, yeah, no, that looks dead. I can't make any comments on that one. As far as Dolan, again, Dolan, just like any other meme coin, has bled a lot. And so, yeah, if you're looking for support, I mean, here's the thing. Is for any meme coin, like, if there's not a lot of attention on it anymore, then I wouldn't be buying it at these levels. Like, again, I'm not trying to time the bottom on Dolan or any other meme coin right now. But if you do have to know where a good support is, potentially, I mean, I would wait. I would wait until, yeah, really, there's not much. Like, if you want to say around 3 mil, maybe. But yeah, guys, as far as any bounces, I mean, unless there's another resurgence in it, a big marketing plan, at that point, you're really just kind of grasping at straws here. Maybe 3 million right here. And then after that, I mean, it's basically a drop to 500K. So, yeah, it's that would be my biggest thing on Dolan is, yeah, I wouldn't touch it, honestly. Just really with any memes, I'm really being hesitant. So that'd be my thing on that. So AI coins, Raphael asked, what do I think about it? AI coins, I'm still bullish on. I do still think that AI coins will have a good run this year. Render, not a bad coin. There's a few others that should be good, like Nillion, Exhibits, a few others that are coming out this year. But yeah, I do think AI will get another resurgence, but it's going to be a lot more utility-based, a lot more legit fundamental plays versus speculative plays. Let's see. Kiss says, what about Picoin? No thoughts on that. Dave says, what are your thoughts about using Grok to make analysis for crypto? So using Grok, Elon's AI on X, using that for analysis on crypto, it's not bad. It gives you a good summary of the market. And so, I mean, if you're fairly new to crypto, I think Grok could definitely help. So yeah, because it goes over everyone's tweets though. So just keep that in mind. It takes into account their opinions. But yeah, not too bad. People are asking me if they should close or sell Ethereum. I mean, at this point you're down 67%, so probably hold it. In that case, I mean, it's estimated liquidation 1939, so 1950 support. If you want to close it and bet at 1950, you can do that as well. So Harish, you can't buy Nillion or Zero Gravity right now. The investment rounds are over for the seed rounds, so you have to wait until TGE, which should be this month. Yep, recording will be posted afterwards. Let's see, asking me to do a Tau TA. Yeah, unfortunately, guys, yeah, there's a lot of questions left. I can't answer them all. I'll just, a Tau TA, no, I can't do a Tau TA right now. Tau, I'm not too bearish on it. I think Tau is pretty good as far as AI. Current thoughts on the trenches, I think eventually they'll come back. But it'll be a lot more focused on like good utilities and probably a lot less gambling. Yeah, the account I was talking about, the X account I was talking about earlier was Layer GG. So, yeah, so I'll show you one more time. This is a good account for following news. So yeah, Layer GG official. DK, I don't think ETH is going to go to 1650 where your liquidation's at. Again, if 1950 breaks, then that's a possibility, but hopefully I'd see 1950 hold on ETH. Austin, should we invest in established memes at $10, $20 million market cap? It's hard right now to invest in those memes, like, because the attention is so fragmented right now, so any of those memes may not even come back. So that's why I'm keen to say, unless a meme has been performing strongly, then maybe you could do that, but yeah, at this point, it's what memes have the strongest community and held the strongest. Let's see. Say and Tia for short-term, long-term. Say probably more bullish on than Tia, but yeah, it's really just kind of neutral on both of those. Linda says, thank you for your time, update, and advice. Hey, no problem, Linda. Glad you're enjoying it. Let's see. Is Sol breaking all-time high anytime soon? Unlikely. Jim Hunt says, do you trade trends? Yeah, I'll usually trade trends. I mean, if we break, a long-term trend line to the upside, usually I'll trade that. Or like trend lines, I'll trade that as well. Let's see. Blip Blop, the wise man asked, no thoughts about that. Meow Zarella says, what do you think about Chia and Permuto Capital Partnership? Apple Microsoft's in the deal too. Could be good if Apple Microsoft is in it, but no thoughts on that at the moment. Ed says, thoughts on ENA. So Athena Labs, I've actually seen some big accounts bullish on that. So I think Athena Labs could do good long term. It's basically like the Luna 2.0. But they're doing everything legitimately. Let's see. Zaga says, thoughts on Hood with 80K holders but bleeding. If it's bleeding, I wouldn't even be looking at it. S says, is it worth to buy long Bitcoin 20x leverage? No. Only invest 3x leverage on Bitcoin. Or maybe 5x at the most. AJ says, Popcat meme. Popcat may not do too bad, but it's lost a lot of momentum. Adil says, what do you think about bottom for ETH in 2026? Thanks. It's potential. I think ETH bottom, depending how high we go this time, but potentially around, hard to say, honestly, maybe 1,500. Let's see. And then when someone asked, what are my RSI settings? So I just do the default settings, so 14 for RSI. Masterpiece, no thoughts on Brett. Celine, thank you for the session, no problem. And awesome. And yeah, no thoughts on the Pi network. And then, yeah, the indicators is just RSI and stock RSI for QP. And then Anis says, where's the best to enter the long on Bitcoin? 77K. And then DeJulian says, what do you think Pangu, Pudgy Penguins? Pangu, I'm not that bullish on, honestly. It's been bleeding a lot, so I don't want to invest in coins that show weakness. But with that, guys, again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you guys. We'll have these streams at least once every other week, so make sure you tune in. We'll post, if anyone had issues with sound, we'll post that as well. But this video is recorded. It will be posted in Jim Hunter, so anyone that didn't have sound will be able to watch it over. And then if you join late, you can watch it as well. But yeah, we try to give you guys as much info as possible, give you guys the tools you need to succeed in the market. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.